Incheon Landing Operation, historically codename Operation Chromite. This was indeed during the Korean War when they were at a disadvantage. That we turned the tide in our favor and secured our victory. It is indeed the most representative and fantastic event. The untold stories behind the landing operation. Now, we will share those untold stories one by one. Now, the date was June 25th, 1950. It was early, 4 a.m. Kim Il-sung's troops, armed with Soviet-made T-34 tanks. A surprise invasion is planned across the entire 38th parallel. In just 4 days, our capital, Seoul, fell to the North Korean forces. Within a month, the area east of the Nakdong River, except for southern Masan and Busan, the entire area entirely falls into North Korean hands. The United States classified this as an act of aggression, leading the UN forces of soldiers from 16 countries will arrive at the port of Busan in South Korea. At that time, the supreme commander of UN forces was General MacArthur. He thought for a little while, if we engage in a full-scale war here, the enemy's main forces are undoubtedly too strong. I thought our forces would suffer heavy casualties. So what he thought was to secretly and grandly navigate around the South Sea and the West Sea, landing at Incheon in South Korea with a bang. That's when the Incheon Landing Operation suddenly came to mind. All right, then, well, why did General MacArthur want to land at Incheon specifically? There are primarily two reasons for that, actually. It is close to Seoul. It's approximately 34 kilometers away. Recapturing Seoul would mean restoring the capital. It will deliver a psychological blow to the enemy's main forces. Now, second, where do all roads lead? Rome, no, I mean Seoul. If we block this road strategically, we can effectively cut off their supply line. Won't food and ammunition supplies be cut off? It's really so incredibly wonderful. However, at that time, the US Joint Chiefs of Staff and the US Navy officially and clearly expressed strong opposition. So why was there opposition? The first issue is that the waterway leading into Incheon is too narrow. The UN ships were carrying 70,000 people on 261 vessels. If the waterways are narrow, can't those warships move quickly? Moreover, if the North Korean forces were to deploy floating mines or naval mines, this means there's no choice but to be helpless against it. The second factor is the extremely large and significantly varied tidal differences. Incheon ranks in the top 5 mudflats. What you talking about? When the tide came in tilde during high tide, the landing needs to be swift, but the high tide only lasts for 2 hours, quickly. If the North Korean forces put up fierce resistance, we won't be able to land, and the water will gradually recede. Then an enormous mudflat stretching about 4 kilometers will unfold before your eyes. How can we land soldiers and equipment and supplies on that muddy ground, safely and efficiently? This is what actually becomes a problem.
Chromite is the only way to victory.
Operation Chromite. 5,000 to 1, that's the odds that you get on this one. This is the riskiest military operation that I've ever encountered.
It was almost approximately 1 in about 5,000. It was truly and completely, utterly and incredibly an absurd number. Nevertheless, General MacArthur insists on Incheon as a crucial strategic location. Ironically, the reason is actually, in fact, the likelihood. It was because the success rate was only 1 in every 5,000. Isn't it indeed the area where the enemy is most complacent? Truly? Absolutely? So he pushes forward with unwavering determination and focus. They even set a date to finalize their plans. When the tide comes in the most, calculated the date when the depth of Incheon Harbor is at its deepest. September 15th, October 11th, and November 3rd. Just 3 days in total, which is a short period. But if it goes to perhaps even October or November, it seems we are in a strategic hurry right now. Because winter is approaching, weather conditions are not favorable. So on September 15th, it proceeds covertly. He set the time exactly at midnight, sharp, precisely. The window for a successful landing operation was almost approximately about roughly 2 hours. So how should we ensure the success of this operation? Perhaps for the best outcome? General MacArthur assigns 2 important strategic missions. The first is a feint strategy, which is a tactical maneuver. This is indeed something that appears in Sun Tzu's Art of War. By making noise from the east in order to successfully, efficiently, and effectively draw the enemy's attention, it means striking the enemy's weak point more precisely in the west. So what options do we have? Perhaps at that time, General MacArthur acted as if he were going to land. Fake radio transmissions are leaked to the enemy. This means we will land approximately west of Pyongyang in Nampo, or landing at Haeju, or landing at Gunsan in Jeolla province. It's about creating chaos in places like Wonsan, Jumonjin, and Uljin. It made it definitely unclear where the landing would take place. And in order to make them truly believe it, he also conducts multiple bombings, and then like this, and they even actually go as far as indeed landing troops. That is the famous Jangsa Landing Operation, which is known as the historical and significant event. This serves as a fake landing in order to successfully and effectively draw the enemy's attention. So do you know who landed by any chance? 772 middle and high school students from our country are selected. Teenage boys who were inexperienced and had only received about 15 days of training in shooting. Ho, just before the significant Incheon Landing Operation, they will land in the early morning hours.
This operation could entail many casualties.
Unfortunately, the ship met a typhoon and ran aground. Risking their lives, the young and brave teenage boys desperately swim to shore. They had only approximately 3 days' worth of food and remaining bullets. They courageously and determinedly pushed through the fierce and relentless storm, occupying the highway connecting Pohang and Yongcheon at that specific moment in time. They achieve a remarkable success in halting the enemy's northward advance. The North Korean army's attention was entirely and completely focused and concentrated on the eastern frontier. Unfortunately, although the rescue ship departed, our boy soldiers, during the fierce and brutal battle that took place there, the majority of them sadly met their demise. This was MacArthur's second important military operation. That is definitely and precisely Operation X-Ray, which very much inspired this movie. Operation X-Ray establishes an intelligence unit in order to successfully and efficiently facilitate the landing operation. The intelligence unit formed at this time specifically became the Naval Intelligence Unit. Our movie's protagonist, the talented Captain Jang Hak-soo, played by Lee Jong-jae, is here. He will appear as the appointed leader and commander of the Naval Intelligence Unit. This Naval Intelligence Unit covertly and secretly infiltrates the Incheon area. With the help of local residents, they identified the locations of enemy coastal artillery and the size of their forces, and the task of locating and removing mines placed in the waterways and ensuring their safe removal. They successfully carry out the mission with great precision. At this time, there was another unit called the KLO Unit. It was Special Forces Unit. They just recently landed on Palmido Island off the coast of Incheon. After a fierce battle with the enemy, they managed to seize the lighthouse. As the lights were turned on during the landing phase, they called General MacArthur's strategic armada to the port of Incheon. The light they shone back then, in the past, was war. It was the brilliant and radiant light of victory, symbolizing hope and triumph and the promise of a brighter future. So the operation was successful. Seoul was recaptured on September 28th, cutting off the enemy's supply routes. The main force becomes a disorganized rebel. Our military advanced northward in the region of the north and eventually pushing up to the Yalu River and up to the Tumen River. Here are the detailed and comprehensive results of the Incheon Landing Operation. Now finally, the war is over. Who comes to mind when you think of the famous Incheon Landing Operation? Perhaps. Most of you will probably answer General MacArthur's UN forces. However, they were able to record their victory in history because unnamed students and local residents who were present at the time and involved, and it was because of the brave and dedicated sacrifices of our military men and women, the very moment that protected the Republic of Korea today. To our esteemed and dearest seniors, through this movie, once again, I bring a heart of remembrance and reflection with a deep sense of